So we'll call this regular council meeting on November 25th to order at 7 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Taylor, would you give the opening prayer, please?
Tonight I'm going to read a prayer of gratitude that was given from John F. Kennedy on Thanksgiving Day, 1963. Let us therefore proclaim our gratitude to Providence for manifold blessings. Let us be humbly thankful for our inherited ideals, and let us resolve to share those blessings and those ideals with our fellow human beings throughout the world. On that day, let us gather in sanctuaries dedicated to worship and in homes blessed by family affection to express our gratitude for the glorious gifts of God. And let us earnestly and humbly pray that we will continue to guide and sustain us in the great unfinished task of achieving peace, justice, and understanding among all men and nations, and ending misery and suffering wherever they exist. Amen.
Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Lawson,
Present.
Mr. Booth, Mr. Clement,
Here.
Ms. Sonic, Mr. Duffy, Mr. Flowers,
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Booth, Ms. Sonic, and Mr. Dunphy.
Jackson.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Yes.
So we have amended the agenda to go into executive session early. So I'll make a motion to do so. We'll go into executive session under ORC 121.22G for personnel and legal matters. Invite in Mr. Richards, Ms. Meyer, Mr. Rowe, and Mr. Tolliver.
We've got Ms. Seppi here with us as well.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry.
Go with the motion. I was going to say after.
You second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, Mr. Clement.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm recused from two of the matters that I presume the council will be discussing, so someone can just come get me after those items.
Okay, perfect.
Sure.
Thank you. We'll be back as soon as possible. Okay, motion to return from executive session at 9:17 p.m.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Rowe, would you read a statement to the council?
Stand.
Yes. Thank you.
So I've been instructed by the City Council to deliver the following statement to the people of Nelsonville. I stand out of respect to the legislative authority of the city, but ultimately and more importantly, out of respect to the citizens of Nelsonville, who the city government represents and is to serve. Council has directed and instructed the city attorney to give the following statement and update to the citizens. This doesn't constitute a waiver of any applicable privilege the city holds. Rather, the city attorney gives this statement as directed and instructed by council to facilitate transparency to the people. As you all know, issue 23, a charter initiative measure submitted to the voters, appeared on the November 5, 2024 general election ballot. More specifically, issue 23 was an ordinance submitted to the voters under Article 10 of Nelsonville City Charter and asked the question of whether Nelsonville City Charter should be abolished and the form of city government be changed to a mayoral form. Issue 23 passed by a substantial margin approximately 70% to 30%. The question now is, what's next? Council has directed and instructed me as city attorney to advise the city as to the proper and lawful ways, to the extent possible under the law, to give effect to the expressed will of the people as evidenced in the results of the vote on issue 23. It is my duty to carry out that direction and instruction. In the coming weeks and months, I will accordingly be advising council as to what it can lawfully do to carry the expressed will of the voters into effect. But we must bear in mind we are in uncharted waters right now. The answer very well may be that there are no lawful ways. Nevertheless, council has directed and instructed me to identify the lawful way, if any, through those waters and to advise the city. Council has directed and instructed the Office of City Manager to make a copy of this statement available to any person in the public who would like a copy. Because of the unique nature of the circumstances we find ourselves in, and because as an attorney, I'm bound by certain ethical rules by the Ohio Supreme Court, I will provide council with regular updates from time to time and the public with statements from time to time as directed and instructed by council. May God bless each of you. May God bless the great city of Nelsonville, as recognized in Nelsonville City Charter. With reliance on the divine providence and gracious favor of Almighty God, this great city will be able to chart its way through these uncharted waters.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. So minutes from the last meeting, did everyone receive those? Any corrections or additions? Motion to accept?
So moved.
There a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Flower,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Yep. Okay, auditor treasurer's report.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'll try to start off with the October 2024 Treasury Report. Turn quick to page 1, you'll see that the total funds as of month end is $7,985,611.15. And turn to the next page. Out of that, our total invested funds are $3,989,359.30. And on the next 2 pages is the account bank to book reconciliation, of which we balanced for the month of October. $0, so everything's good to go. The only other thing I'd have to note is that next month, between Christmas and New Year's, the main CD is coming up for maturity. So I'll probably have to put, given it's around the holiday, I'll get bid letters out most likely by next week to the banks to give them some extra time to get those back to us. And then I think I've got 3, because this time we've got Farmers Bank, that last resolution passed, and then Farmers Peoples and Park National. And then we'll have to have an investment committee meeting, probably most likely definitely before the Christmas holiday, and go from that one. So I think rates they're most likely gonna go down, most likely through next year. So we'll see what we can get out of that.
Mine come due this month and next month, and I asked them about the rates, and they said they didn't think it would drop that much, but that was.
I think it might be like a slow and steady,
Yeah,
so it might be good to lock something longer.
and that's exactly what they said. It's probably gonna be a slow and steady decline, yeah.
What I was looking at is possible. But hopefully we'll get some good options. But
Any questions from council? All right, thank you.
All right.
Auditors report, please.
Good evening, city council, officials and resident, city manager, anyone watching at home. This is the auditor's report for October on this rainy Monday night. I'll start out, first page. October 2024, the city's revenues outpaced expenses. These are large numbers due to the projects ongoing, which has been a normal for several years now. You can see the revenues for October and expenses there, as well as the year-to-date numbers. Major funds combined at the moment over 7 million across all funds, 7.555. General fund, these are all, by the way, pre-encumbrance numbers, which becomes a little more important here at the end of the year as encumbrances close out. You can see the combined street funds. That number just dropped by almost 200,000 just because we wrote out the check for the Canal Street project last week. So you'll see that number drop, but fortunately we're getting the Canal Street project at a quite a discount, like what, 8% of the cost or something we're paying, and the state's paying the rest. Capital improvement fund, water and sewer, all there. The cash statement, this is the report that everyone's constantly having trouble reading because of the size on the screen. So the statement of cash is in the middle of your packet. That shows the revenues, expenses for each fund, as well as the ending balance for each fund as of October 31st. That just mostly regurgitates some of the information from before. The credit card report, just a few things of note, the standard Microsoft charges. You'll see some credits from hotels. That's where standard practice, a hotel charges the full price, including tax. The person staying at the hotel for training needs to then turn in tax exempt, which they then refund, which takes a few days later typically. So you'll see a few credits there. Those are lodging tax and sales tax refunds. And then you will see primarily actually the credit cards were used for trainings. Those are trainings including my office, police department, in October. October is usually the busiest time for trainings and conferences, pretty standard as well as membership renewal from National Fire Protection. The check report is attached as well. I put in the back of your packets an updated copy. I realized the copy I gave you cut off at a certain date, which meant it did not match the email I sent to you. So that was on me, just not printing the same file that I sent in the email. But that last updated version shows everything.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's definitely way more data. I just cut it off when I printed. A few quick things, and then I'll let you guys finish your meeting. Mobile work orders, our live date was last Tuesday. That essentially means that when we send a work order in the system, the crew gets it, and Jason gets it on an iPad, which he can then assign to a crew member. Each crew has their own iPad. They go out, complete the work order with the iPad with them. They take a picture for documentation, all kinds of cool stuff like that. Creates a very nice, quick, seamless system. And it is finally live after 3 years we've been working on it. So really thrilled with that, and thanks to City Council for approving it. Any residents at home or potentially any, I suppose, folks you know or press watching, please make sure folks know not to ignore the regional income tax agency letters. 923 went out the first time, 650 the second time, which was actually way more than I thought. I thought a lot of folks would catch up on that first one. So please don't ignore those correspondences. I haven't seen any penalties yet, but I'm going to imagine after 2 letters they will stop. And I don't want that. So please answer those or call our office if you got one. I wanted to say you guys have a vacation payout piece of legislation. I was gonna explain just, so I don't have to get up and do it again later. An employee who was rehired at the city, it's Mr. Dubler, his name that's on the legislation. He left service back 10-ish years ago. The payroll person did not pay out his vacation time. So he had it still on the account. When he restarted, he didn't know that. I noticed it when I restarted his payroll file. And I verified against his pay stubs. Verified with more than one source that the standard practice would be to correctly pay it out now that he has left service with us as of a few weeks ago. Council, of course, can say no, but standard practice would be he's owed these hours. He earned them years ago, over a decade ago, and they should be paid out. Is my recommendation to the council.
So you're saying he was hired, then he left, then he was rehired and came back, but the first hiring, he had vacation time that was left over?
Correct. 66, I think it's at a decimal point, 66.7 or something like that, hours. Of hours here. And some people asked me when they saw the legislation on the agenda, if this was hours he accrued when he came back, which he was a new employee, so no, he did not.
It was from the first time he was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But happy to answer any more questions too that may come up. So really quick, everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you to the residents and voters of Nelsonville for approving the street levy. I was a little nervous about that one, but we got it done. Thank you to the county and Nelsonville voters for giving me a big margin for county treasurer. I feel proud about the margin and the work we've done, so thank you.
Thank you.
And that's my report.
Any questions, council? All right, thank you.
If the minutes could just reflect auditor's report, credit, and check report. Thank you.
Okay, motion to approve the treasurer's report for October.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Yes.
Mr. Clement.
Yes. Motion to approve the auditor's report from October.
Including the check report.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Yes.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Any citizens' comments? Moving on to business and organizational comments. All right, moving on to committee discussions. I believe a few committees met. One was the Planning and Development Committee. The only thing on the agenda that we discussed was all city facilities, security policies for that, and how to improve what we currently have. And we approved moving that on to city manager to review and take it from there.
Mr. President, Parks and Recreation Committee met as well. We discussed an additional member to the Recreation Board, Reed Courtney, who was going to email me and said he was going to be here tonight, probably was, but since we've been in executive session so long, probably
Yeah.
departed.
I just told him to come to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a new member that we'd like to recommend for appointment at the next meeting. Nobody from the dog park was able to attend that evening, but Mr. Pfeiffer did provide an update on their meetings and their grants that they've had. We're just, I know we're in the process of getting some plans currently made up from, I believe PLZ's making the plans, and that's the next step of the process. We also are going to be looking to have a proposal from Hawken College to collaborate with the city on grant writing. Mr. Tudor said he would present that to council for discussion in another Park and Rec meeting. We also have a resolution on the agenda for this evening to accept a donation of an American flag and was it a veteran? This says Veterans of Foreign Wars flag. Okay. Just want to make sure I was clear. From a gentleman, Mr. Crane. And so we want to accept that and thank him for providing that donation. And those flags are to be flown at Pauley Field. And I believe that was everything that we discussed during the Parks and Rec. We also had a utility committee meeting. And the discussion there was Mr. Cohen had brought some increased fee amounts for water taps, sewer taps, various fees that related to the utilities and the streets that if people wanted certain services, and so we just started that discussion. Make with those recommendations, and then also he also recommended that he felt that the water should be put in the landlord's names. So those were the items for discussion during the utility meeting. Nothing. There's no legislation this evening regarding that, I don't believe.
Okay. Department updates. Chief Oliver?
I got the fire department's update tonight.
Okay, fire department, great.
Chief Barber couldn't be here, he had a family emergency, so. They continue to partner with the Red Cross for smoke alarms. Fire hydrant testing is being conducted, weather permitting. November 2nd, there's a multi-agency training for wildlife search and rescue. They continue to do that training every day on shift. November 7th, the crew held a fire safety event at the Senior Citizens Center to discuss fire blankets. After that presentation, Chief Barber donated a new fire blanket from his home to the Senior Citizens Center. On November 12th, Chief Barber was notified he was awarded a grant. It was submitted through his office for a new Rescue Tech airbag lifting system, and they're still waiting for arrival of the tools. December kicks off really their big busy season for public relations type events. So December 7th, they have their annual fire department breakfast at the Elks from 7 a.m. to noon. So a tradition for over 40 years. The 11th and the 12th is the annual Jim Conrad Christmas toy giveaway. The times are set to be 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. It's the 8th in a row for the program. December 13th is the fire department Santa Parade starting at 6 o'clock. December 20th is the annual Nelsonville Fire Department York Township Christmas Basket Assembly, where all of our combined firefighters, families, and members of the public assemble baskets for delivery the next morning. This year is the 76th year of the basket program. Chief Barber is extremely proud to ensure that each of these cherished programs continue today. He grew up participating in these events as a child alongside many other people in the community. He wants to remind everyone these events would not be possible without the assistance of the public, including non-fire department members that participate in and help with every event. Many volunteer departments refer to these members as auxiliary members, and they're extremely invaluable to our department and community.
Is the Mr. Conrad event, is that taking place at the fire department then? Is that where that takes place?
I believe it did last year.
Okay.
That's the plan for this year as well.
So that's a lot of information. Could that be emailed to all council members so we can have
I
those?
can.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I got this last minute because
Yeah, that's
Chief Barber
fine.
had to run, so
Right.
I can
So,
email it to everyone.
That way we could have all the dates and times. That was a lot to try to write
Yeah,
down.
it's
Okay. Mr. Flowers, you attended the code enforcement conference. Could you just touch on that a little bit?
I did attend the code enforcement along with Mr. Bill Rigger, and, Mr. Brooks actually went with us also. I think you were there for a while, right?
At the end, yeah.
Yeah, and, it was a little different than the ones I attended before. There was a little lighter crowd, and there wasn't as many people. There was some agencies there, and what I love about these meetings is the agencies there are there to help bring along the homes and get them back up to code, not to write tickets and penalize them for their codes. A lot of the stuff was talked about landlords and out-of-town landlords not taking care of their property. Mr. Rigger, Bill, he sends out letter after letter after letter, and it was spoken throughout the code enforcement meeting that their hands are tied in a lot of sense as code enforcement. But the main thing I got out of it, and I did bring this up before, was they're not trying to punish, they're trying to correct little things in the community that, and you gotta face it, property values do go down with that. And then I brought up the fact that we have these vacant properties where they took down and demolished, and they're still sitting in the middle of communities. So I kind of brought up the fact we need to get some real estate people to maybe move these properties along and get some homes built in these communities and rebuild the communities from ground one, and then just keep going. So, but yeah, it was a very good meeting. And what you attended, you saw it.
Yeah, I was there the last 45 minutes. And I took away a lot of information also.
And he gave the, I think you got some of the forms that
Yes,
he
I did.
sends out. And
Yeah,
so it's very informational. And this guy used to be a fire chief up in Columbus. You know, he worked in the fire department up there. So he really knows what he's doing, and he does a nice meeting. I'd love to have a smaller version of that here in Nelsonville, where we could get these agencies and have citizens come and have citizens actually ask, well, what do you do? And then the agencies can tell them, we can do this for you, we can do that for you, we can do that for you. Just a thought.
okay. So they were discussing scheduling another meeting in the future, when in, like, January, February?
Well, usually, I think they usually do a couple months before they do
Yeah.
do another meeting. So yeah, it would probably be late January or February.
Okay, and you'll let us know?
Yep, I will.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Oh, and he was greatly appreciative of Hocking College for giving us that room. That was a gratitude. I mean, he gave it to us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So moving on to ordinances, we have an ordinance for second reading, ordinance 8724.
An ordinance adopting Nelsonville City Code Title 31, Property Maintenance. Whereas Article 18, Section 7 of the Ohio Constitution establishes home rule and thus permits a charter municipality to exercise any power and perform any function necessary for conducting its affairs and directing its governance. Whereas Article 18, Section 3 of the Ohio Constitution permits municipalities to adopt local police, sanitary, and other similar regulations to promote the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. Whereas the adoption of this title will protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the city of Nelsonville by setting minimum standards for all structures and premises, and by establishing minimum requirements for safe and sanitary maintenance of rental property structures, equipment, and facilities for light, ventilation, space, heating, sanitation, protection from the elements, life, safety from fire and other hazards, and fixing the responsibility of owners, operators, and occupants. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The Nelsonville City Code is hereby amended to adopt Title 31, Property Maintenance, as identified in Exhibit A, a copy of which is attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. City Council hereby finds that this ordinance was adopted in a meeting open to the public as required by applicable law. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law, duly enacted by council on second reading the 25th day of November, 2024.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any citizens' comments? Council discussion? Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ordinance 8724 passes. Ordinance 8824.
an ordinance to make appropriations for current yearly budget and expenditures of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio for the 2025 year. Whereas the city needs a permanent appropriations budget ordinance for the year 2025. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. Council hereby establishes and provides as the current expenditures of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio for the 2025 year, the sums described and set forth in Exhibit A, a copy of which is attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. Such sums shall be and hereby are set aside and appropriated for the 2025 year. Accordingly, the sums of $14,295,250 is hereby appropriated. The city auditor is authorized to submit the city's certificate of resources pursuant to this ordinance to the Athens County Budget Commission. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption pursuant to section 4.11 of the Nelsonville City Charter, as this ordinance provides for appropriations for current expenses. Duly enacted by council on second reading the 25th day of November, 2024.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Citizens' comments? Council discussion? Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Yes.
Ordinance 8924.
An ordinance amending the 2024 appropriations ordinance. Whereas the 2024 appropriations need to be amended. Whereas appropriations of $10,000 to number 100 general fund line item 100-624-40020 building maintenance is necessary. Whereas appropriations of $6,000 to number 1 general fund line item number 100-200-50010 vehicle repairs and maintenance is necessary. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The 2024 appropriations ordinance is amended to appropriate from the unappropriated balance to the following fund. Appropriations in the sum of $10,000 from the unappropriated balance of the general fund number 100 to line item 100-624-40020 for building maintenance. Appropriations in the sum of $6,000 from the unappropriated balance of the general fund number 100 to line item 100-200-50010 for vehicle repairs and maintenance. The total appropriated balance is decreased by said amount. The total appropriations in each respective fund mentioned above are increased by said amount. The city auditor is hereby authorized to submit changes to the city's certificate of resources pursuant to this ordinance to the Athens County Budget Commission. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption pursuant to section 4.11 of the Nelsonville City Charter, as this ordinance provides for appropriations for current expenses. Duly enacted by council on second reading the 25th day of November 2024.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Citizens' comments, council discussion. I have a question. So on the roof repair, do we have somebody lined up yet on that?
Yeah,
And will this coming cold weather affect?
that I gotta reach back out to them to get
Okay,
actual repair schedule still.
all right. Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Yes.
Mr. Clement.
Yes. Ordinance 8924 passes. ordinance for first reading,
No, this is done.
I'm sorry,
This is
yeah, this is still the second, or will be second reading. Ordinance 9024.
An ordinance approving a professional services agreement with DLZ for professional services related to the Nelsonville Dog Park and authorizing the city to enter into the professional service agreement. Whereas it is necessary for the city to enter into a professional services agreement and to engage professional services associated with the planning, design, bidding, and construction services for the dog park project, including a shelter house, fencing with gates, asphalt access path, and a parking area with ADA access. Whereas Nelsonville City Charter, Section 4.08, empowers council to provide for the employment of engineering and other professional services on a consulting basis when deemed necessary. Whereas DLZ has agreed to provide the professional services for a lump fee not to exceed $34,600. Whereas it is in the best interest of the city for the city to engage DLZ to provide the professional services for the fee to which DLZ has agreed. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. City council hereby approves the professional services agreement attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference as Exhibit A from the Nelsonville Dog Park project. The city manager, acting city manager, and/or police chief is hereby authorized to execute the professional services agreement on behalf of the city. Accordingly, the city hereby engages DLC for the professional services to be rendered, including planning, design, bidding, and construction services for the dog park project, including a shelter house, fencing with gates, asphalt access path, and a parking area with ADA access for the Nelsonville Dog Park project. The city shall pay DLC up to $34,600 to provide the professional services. Nothing in this ordinance shall be construed as authorizing any expenditure of funds or as appropriating any expenditure of funds other than as specifically and expressly authorized or appropriated herein. City council hereby finds that this ordinance was adopted in a meeting open to the public as required by applicable law. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law. It will act by council on second reading the 25th day of November 2024.
Okay, motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Citizens' comments, council discussion.
I have one question.
Yes.
The $34,600, and it is a question, it's not a, is that giving, you all the authority to spend that money?
Giving me the authority to hire DLZ to do the engineering for the project.
Right, but then do you have the authority, like to put fences up? Do you have to give them, okay to do stuff like that, or?
We'll have to come back in and reapprove the design they come up with.
Here, okay, got it, thank you.
Any other council discussion? Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Flower?
Yes.
Ordinance 9024 passes. Okay. First reading, ordinance 9124, if someone would introduce it.
I'll introduce it.
This is under suspension of the rules.
Yeah, it's gonna have to go for first reading. It's not
Just
gonna
gonna
be
make it
open.
first reading? Okay.
So that means, we enacted the second reading, 9th day of December.
This is that employee, right? Okay.
An ordinance authorizing the payout of $1,879.61 to Brian Dupler for unused vacation from a prior term of service to the city. Whereas Brian Dupler recently left the employ of the city. Whereas Mr. Dupler previously was employed by another municipality, but before that was an employee of the city, employment which he left in 2015. Whereas the city auditor recently discovered Mr. Dupler had accrued vacation time prior to his 2015 departure, which the city failed to pay at that time. Whereas Mr. Dupler has accrued a total of 66.7 hours of vacation time for which he was and is entitled to payment by the city. Now therefore be ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The city auditor is hereby authorized and instructed to pay Brian Duper the sum of $1,879.61 for the 66.7 hours of accrued vacation time for which Mr. Duper is entitled to pay out upon leaving the employment of the city. The city manager, acting city manager, and/or police chief is hereby authorized to authorized to sign any necessary agreement with Mr. Duper to effectuate and settle this payout. Duly enacted by council on second reading the 9th day of December, 2024.
Mr. President, if we could have, the auditor reach out to Mr. Dupler and give him our apologies that we could not, just based on the number of council members here tonight, do this under suspension of the rules. And so he's aware.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Stein.
Just so we can't vote on this?
Not tonight. We're gonna do a second reading.
Needs five?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ordinance 9224, if someone would, introduce it.
I'll introduce it.
An ordinance confirming the appointment of Attorney Jonathan E. Rowe to be city attorney for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025, and authorizing the city to enter into a contract thereto and declaring an emergency. Whereas the current contract for city attorney is set to expire December 31st, 2024, whereas the city manager has authority pursuant to Nelsonville City Charter Section 5.04 to appoint a qualified person to serve as city attorney, which qualifications are set forth in Nelsonville City Charter Section 6.05. Whereas the city manager's appointment of a city attorney is subject to confirmation and approval by council as set forth in Nelsonville City Charter Section 4.08 and 6.05. Whereas the office of city manager has appointed Jonathan E. Rowe to be city attorney for a term commencing January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025 on a part-time basis. Whereas said Jonathan E. Rowe possesses the requisite qualifications to serve as city attorney for a term commencing January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025. Now therefore be ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The office of city manager's appointment of Attorney Jonathan E. Rowe to be city attorney for a term commencing January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025 on a part-time basis is hereby confirmed and approved by a majority of council. The city manager, acting city manager, and/or police chief is hereby authorized to enter into a contract with Jonathan E. Rowe for compensation for the city attorney for a term commencing January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025 on a part-time basis. A copy of the contract is attached hereto as Exhibit A and is incorporated in its entirety for the purposes as it set forth herein. The compensation for the city attorney for such term shall be as provided as set forth in Exhibit A. No other compensation may be paid to the city attorney except as provided for by law. The city attorney shall have such authority and duties as are set forth in the Nelsonville City Charter for the office of city attorney. Duly enacted by council on second reading, the 9th day of December, 2024. I'm sorry, I didn't read that. I'll go back and read section 5.
Oh, well, we can't, the council can't declare an
Okay.
emergency tonight, so.
Right. Any council discussion? Okay. Resolution 2325, if someone would introduce it.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. A resolution accepting the donation of an American flag for Polly Field and thanking Jerry Crane and the Nelsonville Veterans of Foreign Wars for the donation. Whereas an American flag has been donated to the city of Nelsonville for display at Polly Field. Whereas it is the desire of council to accept the donation of the American flag. Whereas the city wishes to thank and recognize Jerry Crane and Nelsonville Veterans of Foreign Wars for their generous donation of the American flag. Whereas it is incumbent on the city to care for the American flag properly and respectfully according to the flag code, as the flag is a symbol of our nation and freedom and of all those who have made sacrifices for our freedom. Now therefore be resolved by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The city hereby accepts the donations of an American flag from Jerry Crane and the Nelsonville Veterans of Foreign Wars. The city thanks Jerry Crane and the Nelsonville Veterans of Foreign Wars for their generous donation of the American flag. The American flag shall be displayed on a flagpole at Poly Field in full compliance and requirements of the flag code. If additional lighting is required to ensure compliance, the fire chief and police chief are hereby instructed to take immediate action to ensure such compliance. Council shall, by separate legislation, provide for any appropriations of funds as may be necessary for any additional lighting which may be necessary. The council hereby finds that this resolution was adopted in a meeting open to the public as required by applicable law. This resolution shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law, duly adopted by council on first reading the 25th day of November, 2024.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Citizens' comments, council discussion.
Are the flags flying now?
I believe they've been installed.
Is the flagpole lit now?
I'm not positive off my head.
Cause if the flagpole's not lit, flags don't need to be up.
Agreed.
Matter of fact, I think it's a violation of law for flags not to be lit.
It's against flag code for sure.
So, we just need to, but we just make sure that we get somebody down there to ensure that they're lit or not.
They were not as of the committee meeting that we had the other night. It was not lit, but they were flying.
And I was wondering if it's not lit, then we can get somebody down there and take them down at night.
I'll talk to the fire department.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Crane for generous donation. Thought it was very nice.
Absolutely. Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Flower?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Resolution 2325 passes. Resolution 2326, if someone would like to introduce it.
I'll introduce it.
A resolution recognizing the public service of the city's public information officer and the city's web designer. Whereas the city's public information officer, Daniel Bear Pfeiffer, who has been with the city of Nelsonville for over 30 years, both as PIO and as a firefighter for the Nelsonville Fire Department. Whereas Mr. Pfeiffer also served as station chief for Scenes as a former director for the Athens County EMA and is an active board member for the Nelsonville Dog Park. Whereas Mr. Pfeiffer has demonstrated a dedication to public service over those 30 years. Whereas the city's web designer is Brian Spellman, who has been assisting the city since October 2015. Whereas Mr. Spellman previously worked for the Ohio University Library and works for the Northern Kentucky University. Whereas Mr. Spellman has demonstrated a dedication to public service over the course of his time of service with the city. Whereas it is the desire of council to recognize and declare the appreciation for the public service of both Mr. Pfeiffer and Mr. Spellman. Now therefore be resolved by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The city hereby recognizes and declares its appreciation to both Mr. Pfeiffer and Mr. Spellman for their respective dedications to public service to the city of Nelsonville. Council clerk shall provide to both Mr. Pfeiffer and Mr. Spellman signed copies of this resolution. The acting city manager is hereby instructed to send the city's thanks to both Mr. Pfeiffer and Mr. Spellman for their service to the city. The council hereby finds that this resolution was adopted in a meeting open to the public as required by applicable law. This resolution shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law, duly enacted by council on first reading the 25th day of November 2024.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Any citizens comment? Council discussion?
I want to just echo, the thoughts here regarding the two gentlemen. They've dedicated a lot of time over the years. I've been part of the city and I appreciate their efforts. I also want to thank Mr. Robert Taylor, who is the one that brought forth this, legislation. He himself's been with the city for, Taylor, what, 26 years?
He's over 30.
Over 30.
He's retirement eligible now. I think he's
Oh.
about 32.
I thought he was still a few years out. I thought we were going to be able to hold on to him for a few more years.
He's eligible. I don't think he's going anywhere yet.
Okay, all right. But that's all I have to say.
So I'd like to thank these two gentlemen too. These are two gentlemen that work behind the scenes, and this recognition is a great thing. Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Flowers,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Definitely. Resolution 2326 passes. City managers report.
Zach at the sewer plant got his wastewater operator license, so we've had a 10-hour reduction in the number of hours Sean, the plant manager, has to be on site at the plant. So that's a pretty big help for them. I attended the Orca board meeting earlier this week where we're a founding member of. They're pretty excited. It seems like Ross County is very interested in joining Orca, so it's turning into more of a regional multi-county group than previously. Jennifer LaCrue at Nelsonville York City Schools received a grant so that she can have some students intern at the city of Nelsonville in January. So we're gonna schedule a couple days in January. They're gonna be able to come down and just kind of get shown some basic stuff at the street department, you know, how to use some tools, what's what, just a little bit of extra education for them. Hopefully they can glean some useful knowledge from it.
Fill in some potholes.
Maybe we'll put in the work. Probably not. So on Port Elizabeth Street, all of the houses that were not previously hooked up to the sewer are now completed as of today. So all of those properties are now hooked up to the city sewer as they should have been. And then along with that project, 350 feet approximately of sewer main have been put down on Pleasant View now. So that project's moving along and going fairly smooth. That's all I got.
Any questions for city manager? Okay. Good in the order.
Make sure to have some waivers around before you put, folks to work with that. I think that's the
Waivers would be good.
waivers.
You can just put them in the potholes or in the churches.
Maybe Rob has a stock one.
Good of the order, Mr. Flowers.
No. Comment.
Mr. Taylor.
I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and, hopefully everybody has a safe and, wonderful holiday, spend time with family and friends.
Mr. Lawson.
I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Be safe in your travels. Weather is supposed to be a little bit icy and tricky here the next few days. Remember what this is for. It's for giving a thanks, giving a family coming together of friends. Put the petty differences aside behind you that we've had this last few months, especially with the election and everything. Come together as a family, friends. I want to thank all our service members that are going to be able to go home this week. So, God bless America. God bless Nelsonville. That's all I got.
Thank you. So I know it's not Thanksgiving yet, but I do want to bring it up. We can discuss it at our next meeting to cancel the second meeting in December, which is the week of Christmas. So just put that on the radar. And also, everyone have a safe Thanksgiving. And with that, motion to it.
Do you want a motion to cancel that second meeting?
I think we'll wait till next meeting, more council members here. think, because we'll have plenty of time.
And I'll give you that motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Second, I'll second it.
Mr. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Flower.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson.
We've been here long enough, let's do a little bit later.
That's another hour.
Still after 10.